Welcome to the BTS Lover channel. Thank you for being here with us. Make sure you stay until the end, because today's news is not just ordinary information. There are small details, a quiet atmosphere after the cheers fade, and a moment that has left many ARMY wondering. What really happened to Jimin after the New Year Live ended? New Year's Eve is always associated with laughter, countdowns, and fresh hopes. BTS's New Year Live unfolded exactly as many had expected, warm, full of energy, and rich with togetherness. The 7 members sat side by side, sharing jokes, smiles, and small interactions that made viewers feel as if they were in the same room. Nothing seemed out of place. There were no worried expressions. Everything looked perfect on screen. And yet, it was behind that light and joyful atmosphere that this story slowly began. The cameras captured every second. Laughter filled the room. The countdown to the new year was welcomed with cheers, applause, and heartfelt wishes. Jimin, as always, appeared calm. His smile was gentle, his gestures relaxed, and his interactions with the members felt natural. There were no signs that the night would leave a different mark compared to previous New Year celebrations. Then, the live finally ended. The screen went dark. The comments stopped flowing. The virtual cheers disappeared. And it was there, according to many observations, that the atmosphere subtly shifted. Several sources mentioned that once the cameras were truly off, the room, previously filled with sound, suddenly felt quieter. Not because of awkwardness, but due to the natural exhaustion after pouring out so much energy during the live. Some members stood up, others remained seated. Moments like these, unscripted and unseen, usually happen when there is no spotlight. It was during that transition that Jimin was said to pause. Not a dramatic pause, not one that instantly caused panic, just a brief moment. But for those who know Jimin's habits well, that pause felt different. His gaze no longer seemed fully focused. His movements slowed, as if the world around him was no longer completely steady. Soon, careful ARMY began to notice and discuss the same word: vertigo. There was no immediate official statement, no quick clarification, and it was precisely this lack of certainty that made curiosity grow stronger. Many began to wonder, had Jimin already been feeling unwell during the live, or did the condition come suddenly after the excitement faded? Interestingly, in the final moments of the live before it ended, Jimin did appear quieter than earlier. But once again, nothing looked alarming at the time. His smile was still there. His responses were warm. Everything seemed under control. This is where the story becomes compelling. Vertigo is not always something visible from the outside. It can arrive suddenly, making the head feel as if it's spinning, disturbing balance, and causing the body to feel out of sync. In a post-live situation filled with quick changes, from sitting for a long time to standing and moving, such a condition can appear without warning. Speculation naturally followed. Some linked it to fatigue, others pointed to the pressure of a demanding schedule. There were also those who believed it was simply the body's reaction after holding in energy and emotions throughout the live broadcast. But until now, all of this remains in the realm of assumptions. What is certain is that the story does not end there. What deeply touched many fans was the sense of togetherness BTS reportedly maintained after the live. There was no drama, no excessive panic. If Jimin did experience mild vertigo, many believe the members were quietly there for him, in their own way, without needing to announce it publicly. And perhaps that is the true meaning of this story. It is not about illness, not about worry alone. It is about a quiet moment after a massive spotlight, when an idol is no longer standing in front of millions of eyes, but returns to being human, someone who can feel tired, lose balance, and need a moment to steady himself. New Year's night is often portrayed as a glittering beginning. But for Jimin, that night may also have been a reminder that behind the stage lights, there is a body and a heart that still need care. Up to now, there have been no further reports indicating anything serious. BTS's activities continue as usual. Jimin's smile has been seen again in later moments. Yet one thing has already lingered in many people's minds, that even on the happiest night, there are small stories that never reach the camera. As the night quietly moved forward, many ARMY began to replay the live in their minds, not out of excitement, but out of concern. Small moments that once seemed ordinary suddenly felt meaningful. A brief silence, a softer smile, a slower movement. When viewed again, these fragments began to form a different picture, one that only appeared after the celebration was over. In the hours following the broadcast, social media slowly filled with gentle questions rather than loud rumors. Fans were not panicking. Instead, they were observing. Screenshots circulated, not to accuse or exaggerate, but to understand. It was as if everyone was collectively trying to piece together a story that had unfolded quietly, without headlines or announcements. What made this moment stand out was the contrast. Just minutes earlier, the room had been filled with laughter and light. Jimin had been part of the countdown, his voice blending seamlessly with the others as the new year arrived. Fireworks might not have been visible through the screen, but the energy was undeniable. And yet, as soon as the live ended, that energy seemed to gently collapse inward, like a tide pulling back after a wave. For artists who live much of their lives in front of cameras, this transition can be more intense than it appears. The sudden shift from performance mode to stillness is not merely physical, it is emotional. The body, having stayed alert and expressive for an extended period, finally allows itself to relax. And sometimes, that release reveals what had been quietly held back. Vertigo, as many fans later discussed, is often associated with moments like these. It does not always come with warning signs. There is no dramatic fall, no loud signal. Sometimes it is simply the world tilting slightly, the room spinning just enough to force someone to pause. For a few seconds or minutes, nothing feels quite stable. And in that fragile space, silence becomes necessary. Those who know Jimin well often describe him as someone who gives everything while the camera is on. His expressions are sincere, his reactions thoughtful, his presence fully engaged. It is not hard to imagine that once the live ended, his body might have simply asked for a moment it had postponed. What followed was not chaos, but care. Though nothing was shown publicly. Many fans believe that the strength of BTS lies precisely in moments like these, when there is no audience. Over the years, the members have developed an unspoken understanding of one another. They read pauses. They notice shifts in energy. They respond without making a scene. And perhaps that is why there was no dramatic story afterward. No urgent updates, no alarming statements, just a quiet continuation of normal activities as if to reassure everyone without saying a word. In the days that followed, Jimin appeared again with his familiar smile, his posture steady, his voice calm. To many, that alone was enough. Yet the question remained. Why did this moment resonate so deeply? The answer may lie in timing. A new year represents hope, renewal, and fresh beginnings. It is a symbolic reset, a promise that whatever comes next will be better, brighter, stronger. Seeing even a small sign of vulnerability at such a moment reminds people that growth does not erase fragility. That moving forward does not mean never needing rest. For fans who have followed BTS for years, this realization felt intimate rather than alarming. It was not about fear, it was about connection. The reminder that behind global stages and historic achievements are individuals who still experience ordinary human limits. And Jimin, in that quiet post-live moment, embodied that truth. There was also something deeply poetic about the timing. As the world welcomed a new chapter, Jimin's body briefly asked him to slow down, as if to say that beginnings do not have to be rushed, that even the first moments of a new year can be gentle. In the absence of official explanations, fans chose empathy over speculation. Messages of support flooded timelines, not demanding answers, but offering warmth. Many wrote about rest, health, and the importance of listening to one's body. The tone was not sensational, it was protective. This response itself became part of the story. It showed how the relationship between BTS and ARMY has evolved beyond simple admiration. It has become a shared understanding, one that respects boundaries while still caring deeply. A relationship that does not need constant access to feel close. And perhaps that is why this story continues to linger. Not because something terrible happened, but because something human did. In an industry often defined by perfection, moments like these stand out precisely because they are imperfect. They remind people that strength and vulnerability are not opposites, that a person can stand confidently on a global stage and still need to sit quietly afterward. As time passes, this night will likely be remembered not for concern, but for reflection, for the way it gently reminded fans to look beyond the performance and see the person, to celebrate achievements, yes, but also to honor rest. Jimin's Vertigo, whether brief or mild, became a symbol rather than a headline, a symbol of balance, of listening inward, of understanding that even joy can be tiring and that pausing does not diminish the moment, it deepens it. And so, as the new year continues to unfold, this story remains a quiet footnote in a much larger journey. Not a scandal, not a crisis, just a reminder that sometimes the most meaningful stories are not the ones that dominate the screen, but the ones that happen after the applause fades.